All right, who is Jayden Higgins? Let's get to know Jayden Higgins. Texans called Jayden Higgins' name at the start of the second round after trading out of the first. Let's get to know him. Let's talk about the comparison that's been made in regards to a familiar face, kind of laughable in a number of ways, as well as some of the post-draft dialogue that I don't really understand that might need to be put on hold. And we'll also hear from the man himself, but let's get right into it. Jayden Higgins out of Miami to Eastern Kentucky to Iowa State. Now, how do you end up at Eastern Kentucky if you're such a really good prospect? There's a number of ways that it happens, but in his situation, it's kind of easy to explain. So from freshman to sophomore year, and really before that, he was one of the most respected basketball players, or a really good basketball player in the Florida area. He ended up focusing on football his junior and senior year. However, the years that his junior and senior year were 2019 and 2020, which is when the pandemic happened. And we know people who lost their whole damn senior and junior year as a result of the pandemic. If you're not on the radar when it came to recruiting up to that point, probably a little bit more difficult to get noticed. Hell, it was difficult in some areas to even get to play football. So as a result, he starts out at Eastern Kentucky. He gets the attention of Matt Campbell at Iowa State. He goes there and he plays his way into being a guy whose name was called early in the NFL draft. Now, there's been one comparison that's been made throughout this process. I've kind of rolled my eyes at it. It's been the Nico Collins comparison. My thing is, based on the style that Nico Collins plays and the manner in which he plays, if you have two Nico Collins, I don't think it's a problem. I think in some situations, maybe it could be a problem if two guys play exactly alike. But if you have two Nico Collins, I don't think it's a problem, especially when you're this thin at the wide receiver position. The other thing is, I don't necessarily think these guys play as alike as a lot of people said. I think Daniel Jeremiah compared their physical attributes, and people kind of piggybacked on it and talked about them playing alike. But again, if they do, I'll take two. But here are the physical attributes, and it's really hard to not notice just how physically similar these guys are. You can see the hand size. Nico and has a little bigger hands and arms. The height, 100% identical. The weight, 1 pound off. The 40-yard dash, damn near similar. And then the 20 and 10, Nico has a slight edge in the 10 split. And a pretty decent edge in the 20 split. Vertical, Higgins has the slight edge. And then in the broad jumps, Higgins has the slight edge. And then in the shuttle, Higgins also has a slight edge. And then the three cone, you give Nico the edge. So the similarities are there physically between he and Nico. From a style perspective, you can watch Higgins play and tell that the guy played basketball before. He is a jump ball guy, back shoulder, go up and get it. He can go across the middle, but I don't think he's going across the middle with as much violence as Nico Collins. And quite frankly, I don't know that Nico Collins looked the way he did at Michigan as he does with the Texans. He's actually one of those guys who might be better in the pros than he was in college. But physically, there are comparisons. But again, if they do play similar stylistically, which it's just hard, I'll let you judge for yourself. You can go check it out. If they do, I don't think that's a problem based on the way that Nico Collins plays and the many ways that you can use him. But that's enough of me talking about it. Let's hear from the man himself. This was Higgins when he was introduced to the Houston media, talking about how he thinks that he'll fit with Nico Collins.
Yeah, definitely. I would say I try to emulate my game after a lot of guys. Nico being a big receiver, definitely I like to watch his film. Really what I see from his game is just how explosive he is. He's also very physical, fast, but really just a great vertical threat. So definitely try to pick his mind and, see how I can implement some of those little things that he has into my game as well.
Yeah, so he's not saying a ton, and I think it's kind of weird to even get ahead of ourselves in that area. We'll talk about that in a sec. But let's hear him, and I think this is an interesting comp, and I think he plays a little bit more like this. But let's hear from the man himself. We've talked about his style. Let's hear who Higgins says he compares himself to stylistically.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would say, of course, a big receiver because of my size, but someone that's going to make the play when the ball is in the air. I kind of think of myself like a Larry Fitzgerald type of person, someone that's gonna just catch the ball when it's his opportunity, someone that's always gonna be in the right spot at the right time and just get open.
All right, so there you go. Larry Fitzgerald, kind of the ultimate jump ball guy. And I think Higgins has a little bit more of that in his game than Nico. Don't get me wrong, Nico can go up and get it, but I think Higgins, he looks like a basketball player when he plays. Nico Collins, it is an array of skills, but quite frankly, he's one of the best guys after the catch. I don't think Higgins possesses that type of violence. He's not a stiff, but I mean, that we've talked about Nico Collins, Deebo Samuel running style, where they just look like the villain from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it's almost like they're trying to tackle guys that are trying to tackle them. I don't think you get that with Higgins, but you do get some interesting elements in the physical traits. Although those don't always translate to the field, they're hard to argue. But again, even if they are alike, I'll take two. Waiter, give me two Nico Collins. All day, all night. Now, here's where it's kind of comical when it comes to talking about the fit, though, because now there's been talk about how does he fit with Nico Collins? How do these styles fit? How do these contrast? I've heard the word compliment thrown out on some of the most respected draft places where they talk about the draft. But here's the comedy of talking about how they fit. And this is me. This is someone who's at every practice. This is someone who follows this team as close as anyone for as long as anyone. We don't even know what the offense is. That's what's crazy. So Nick Caley is a first-time offensive coordinator. I've heard him say it's going to be a hybrid between the Rams and the Patriots. Who knows what the hell that means? We don't know how he's going to react. We thought Bobby Slowick was awesome early, and he kind of fell off. So in a lot of situations and in a lot of systems, you have some sort of visual and you have some sort of proof of how this guy is going to fit. I think in any offense, if you have two Nico Collins, if the offensive coordinator can't make that work, his ass should be fired quicker than Bobby Slowick was. So I don't think that's a problem. But as far as how they're going to fit specifically with their skill sets and what it's going to look like, your guess is as good as mine, because as much as we talked about the draft, as much as there was mystery and as much as there was buildup, the biggest mystery and the number one question of the offseason for the Houston Texans is what kind of offense are they even going to run? What the hell is a Nick Caley offense? He's got some stuff to work with, though, and it'll be interesting to see. Training camp's going to be more interesting than it's been in a long time. No, a lot of people wanted offensive line. They did draft an offensive lineman. Maybe not where you wanted. We'll get to know him tomorrow. But this was a little information, little cram session on Jayden Higgins. Do you think he fits with Nico Collins? Do you think the comparison is valid? Let me know. Subscribe, like, right along. Always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Appreciate y'all for coming through.